Maria Rodriguez stood very still in front of Commander Jackson's big wooden desk. Her hands were by her sides. Her back was straight. She looked ahead at the wall behind the commander. She did not look at his face. The office was quiet except for the sound of papers moving. Commander Jackson was reading from a thick file. Maria could see her name written on the front of the file. She had been a soldier for 3 years. She had never been in trouble before. She did not understand why she was here now. Staff Sergeant Rodriguez, Commander Jackson said. His voice was deep and serious. Do you know why you are here today? Maria's heart was beating fast. She tried to keep her voice steady. No, sir. I do not know. Commander Jackson put the file down on his desk. He looked at Maria with cold eyes. You are here because someone has made a complaint about you. A very serious complaint. Maria felt her stomach drop. She had always followed the rules. She had always done her job well. Her other commanders had always said good things about her work. She could not think of what she might have done wrong. What kind of complaint, sir? Maria asked. Someone says you have been breaking uniform rules. They say you have things on your body that are not allowed. They say you have been hiding these things under your uniform. Maria's mind raced. She thought about her uniform. She always made sure it was clean and neat. She always wore it the right way. She checked herself in the mirror every morning before leaving her room. I do not understand, sir. My uniform is always correct. Commander Jackson picked up another paper from his desk. The person who made this complaint says you have markings on your body. Tattoos. They say these tattoos are not allowed by military rules. Maria's blood turned cold. She did have a tattoo. It was on her upper arm. She always kept it covered with her uniform. No one could see it when she was dressed for duty. She had gotten it many years ago before she joined the army. It meant something very important to her, but she never talked about it. Sir, I do have a tattoo, but it is always covered. No one can see it when I am in uniform. I have never broken any rules about showing it. Commander Jackson's face did not change. The rules say that tattoos must be reported when you join the army. Did you report your tattoo? Maria thought back to when she first joined. There had been so many papers to fill out, so many questions to answer. She remembered the question about tattoos. She had been young and scared. She was afraid they would not let her join if they knew about her tattoo, so she had said no. She had lied. Maria started to speak but stopped. She did not want to lie again, but she was afraid of what would happen if she told the truth. The person who made this complaint says you lied when you joined the army. They say you hid your tattoo on purpose. This is a very serious thing, Staff Sergeant Rodriguez. Maria felt like the room was spinning. She had worked so hard to be a good soldier. She had trained hard. She had studied hard. She had always tried to do the right thing. Now, because of one mistake she made 3 years ago, everything might be ruined. Who made this complaint, sir? Maria asked. I cannot tell you that, but I can tell you that this person seems to know a lot about you. They know about your tattoo. They know that you did not report it. They have asked for a full investigation. Maria's mind went to the other soldiers in her unit. She tried to think of who might want to hurt her. She had always gotten along well with most people. She did her job and minded her own business. But she knew that some soldiers did not like it when others got promoted quickly. Maria had been promoted twice in 3 years. Maybe someone was jealous. Sir, I can explain about the tattoo. It is not something bad. It is something very important to me. Something from before I joined the army. That does not matter now, Commander Jackson said. What matters is that you may have lied on your application. What matters is that you may have broken military rules. These are serious charges, Staff Sergeant Rodriguez. Maria felt tears starting to form in her eyes. She blinked hard to keep them from falling. She would not cry in front of the commander. She was a soldier. Soldiers did not cry. What happens now, sir? Commander Jackson stood up from his chair. He was a tall man with gray hair. He had been in the army for many years. Maria had heard other soldiers talk about him. They said he was fair but very strict about rules. Now there will be an investigation. You will be questioned by other officers. They will want to see your tattoo. They will want to know everything about it. They will decide if you broke the rules and what your punishment should be. Punishment, sir? If they find that you lied on your application, you could be kicked out of the army. You could lose all your benefits. You could lose your rank. Everything you have worked for could be gone. Maria felt like she might be sick. The army was her life. It was the only family she had. She had grown up in foster homes. She had no real family to go back to. The army had given her a purpose. It had given her friends. It had given her a future, sir, please. I made a mistake when I joined. I was young and scared, but I have been a good soldier. I have always done my job well. Please do not let one mistake ruin everything. Commander Jackson's face stayed hard. The investigation will look at everything. Your work record, your behavior, everything. But the rules are the rules, Staff Sergeant Rodriguez. No one is above the rules. Maria knew there was nothing more she could say. She had made her choice 3 years ago when she lied on her application. Now she had to face the consequences. When does the investigation start, sir? It has already started. You will report to Colonel Martinez tomorrow morning at 800 hours. He will be leading the investigation. Until this is resolved, you are restricted to base. You cannot leave without permission. Maria felt trapped. She was being treated like a criminal, all because of a tattoo that no one could even see. Yes, sir. I understand. One more thing, Staff Sergeant Rodriguez. This investigation will not be quiet. Other soldiers will know about it. You should be prepared for that. Maria's heart sank even lower. Soon everyone on the base would know she was in trouble. They would all be talking about her. Some would think she was guilty before the investigation even finished. Dismissed, Commander Jackson said. Maria saluted and turned to leave. As she walked to the door, she felt like her whole world was falling apart. She had always been proud to be a soldier. Now she felt like she was letting everyone down. Outside the commander's office, Maria walked slowly back to her barracks. Other soldiers looked at her as she passed. Did they already know? Was the news already spreading around the base? Maria thought about her tattoo. It was not just any tattoo. It had a story. A very important story. But she had never told anyone about it. She had kept it secret for so long. Now, because someone wanted to hurt her, that secret was going to come out. She wondered who had reported her. Who knew about her tattoo? She had been so careful to keep it hidden. Someone must have seen it somehow. Someone who wanted to cause her trouble. As Maria reached her room, she sat down on her bed. She looked at her uniform hanging in the closet. She had been so proud to wear it. Now she wondered if she would ever wear it again. Tomorrow, the investigation would begin. Tomorrow, she would have to face questions about her past. She would have to show her tattoo to strangers who would judge her. Maria closed her eyes and tried to prepare herself for what was coming. She knew it would be the hardest fight of her life. The next morning came too quickly for Maria. She had not slept well. Every time she closed her eyes, she thought about the investigation. She thought about what might happen to her. She got up early and made her bed very carefully. She put on her uniform and checked herself in the mirror many times. At exactly 800 hours, Maria knocked on Colonel Martinez's office door. She heard a voice tell her to come in. Colonel Martinez was younger than Commander Jackson. He had dark hair and serious brown eyes. There were 2 other officers in the room with him. Staff Sergeant Rodriguez, please sit down, Colonel Martinez said. He pointed to a chair in front of his desk. Maria sat down and kept her back straight. She put her hands on her knees and looked ahead. We are here to talk about the complaint that was made against you. We need to understand what happened. We need to know the truth. Yes, sir, Maria said. For the next 2 hours, the officers asked Maria many questions. They asked about when she joined the army. They asked about her application. They asked about her tattoo. Maria answered every question honestly. She told them she had made a mistake by not reporting her tattoo. She said she was sorry. The officers wrote down everything she said. They did not smile. They did not seem friendly. Maria felt like she was on trial for a terrible crime. Staff Sergeant Rodriguez, Colonel Martinez said, we need to see this tattoo. We need to know exactly what it looks like. Maria's heart started beating faster. Here, sir, now? Yes, we need to see it to complete our report. Maria felt embarrassed. She had never shown her tattoo to anyone in the army. It was very personal to her. But she knew she had no choice. She started to roll up her sleeve. The tattoo was on her upper arm. As she pulled her sleeve up, the officers leaned forward to look. Maria felt very uncomfortable. She wanted to cover it up again quickly. But the officers took a long time looking at it. They asked her questions about what each part meant. They wrote down everything they saw. Maria felt like they were looking into her soul. After the meeting, Maria thought the worst part was over. She was wrong. 3 days later, Maria got a message to report to the main assembly hall at 1400 hours. She did not know why. The message just said to come in full uniform. When Maria arrived at the assembly hall, she was shocked. There were soldiers everywhere. She counted about 180 people sitting in chairs. They were all looking at a small stage at the front of the room. Maria saw Commander Jackson standing on the stage. He looked very serious. When he saw Maria come in, he pointed to a spot near the front. "Staff Sergeant Rodriguez, please come forward and stand here," he said loudly. Everyone in the room turned to look at Maria. She felt her face get hot. She walked to where Commander Jackson had pointed. She could hear people whispering. She knew they were talking about her. "Ladies and gentlemen," Commander Jackson announced to the room, "we are here today for a special demonstration. We are here to talk about military rules and why they are important." Maria's stomach felt sick. She realized she was about to become an example for all these soldiers. They were going to use her to show what happens when someone breaks the rules. "Staff Sergeant Rodriguez has been found to have violated military regulations," Commander Jackson continued. "She failed to report a tattoo when she joined the Army. She has been hiding this tattoo for 3 years. The whispering in the room got louder. Maria wanted to run away. She wanted to hide, but she had to stand there and listen to the commander tell everyone about her mistakes. Today, Staff Sergeant Rodriguez will demonstrate the proper way to conduct yourself when you have made a mistake. She will show all of you what accountability looks like." Maria did not understand what the commander meant. What was she supposed to demonstrate? "Staff Sergeant Rodriguez," Commander Jackson said, turning to look at her. "Remove your uniform jacket." Maria's eyes went wide. "Sir? You heard me. Remove your jacket. Everyone here needs to see what happens when you hide things from the Army." Maria felt like the room was spinning. He wanted her to take off her jacket in front of all these people. That would show everyone her tattoo. It would embarrass her in front of the whole base. "Sir, please," Maria said quietly. "Can we do this in private?" "No," Commander Jackson said firmly. "You chose to hide your tattoo. You chose to lie. Now everyone needs to see the consequences of those choices." Maria looked out at all the faces staring at her. Some soldiers looked curious. Some looked uncomfortable. Some looked like they felt sorry for her. But they were all watching. They were all waiting to see what she would do. Maria's hands shook as she reached for the buttons on her jacket. She had never felt so embarrassed in her life. She was a good soldier. She had worked hard. Now she was being treated like a criminal in front of everyone. She started to unbutton her jacket slowly. With each button, she felt more exposed. She felt more ashamed. The room was completely quiet now. Everyone was watching her every move. "Faster, Staff Sergeant Rodriguez," Commander Jackson said. "We do not have all day." Maria tried to move faster, but her hands were shaking. She felt tears starting to form in her eyes again. She blinked hard to keep them back. She would not cry in front of all these people. Finally, she undid the last button. She looked at Commander Jackson, hoping he would change his mind. But his face was hard and cold. "Remove the jacket completely," he ordered. Maria slowly pulled off her jacket. She was now standing in just her undershirt. Her tattoo was clearly visible on her upper arm. She heard some people in the audience gasp. Others leaned forward to get a better look. Commander Jackson walked closer to Maria. He looked at her tattoo for a long moment. Maria kept her eyes forward, trying not to look at anyone in the audience. "Everyone can see this tattoo now," Commander Jackson announced. "This is what Staff Sergeant Rodriguez has been hiding from us for 3 years." The commander walked around Maria so everyone could see the tattoo from different angles. Maria felt like an animal in a zoo. People were staring at her like she was something strange and dangerous. "This tattoo tells a story," Commander Jackson continued. "A story that Staff Sergeant Rodriguez chose to keep secret. A story that she thought was more important than military rules." Maria wanted to speak up. She wanted to tell everyone that her tattoo was not something bad. It was something meaningful, something important. But she knew the commander would not let her speak. "Look closely at this tattoo," Commander Jackson said. He was now standing right next to Maria. "Look at the details. Look at the symbols." Commander Jackson leaned in closer to examine the tattoo. Maria could feel his breath on her arm. The room was so quiet she could hear people breathing. Suddenly, Commander Jackson stopped moving. He was staring at one part of the tattoo very intently. His face changed. The hard, cold look was gone. Now he looked confused, maybe even surprised. "What is this symbol here?" Commander Jackson asked quietly. His voice was different now, less angry. More curious, Maria looked down at where he was pointing. It was a small symbol that was part of the larger design, a symbol that most people would not recognize, a symbol that had special meaning to only a few people. It is part of the design, sir, Maria said quietly. But Commander Jackson was still staring at the symbol. He looked like he had seen a ghost. His face was getting pale. He took a step back from Maria. The audience was getting restless. They could see that something was happening, but they did not know what. Some people started whispering again. Commander Jackson moved closer to the tattoo again. He was looking at other parts of it now. He was studying it very carefully. His eyes moved from one symbol to another, from one date to another. "Where did you get this tattoo?" Commander Jackson asked. His voice was very quiet now, so quiet that the people in the back of the room probably could not hear him. "I got it a long time ago, sir, before I joined the army." "Where? When exactly?" Maria was confused by the commander's sudden interest in the details. A few minutes ago, he had been using her tattoo to embarrass her. Now he seemed very focused on understanding it. "I got it 12 years ago, sir. When I was 18. Commander Jackson's face went completely white. He looked like he might fall over. He stared at Maria's face for the first time since she had taken off her jacket. 12 years ago, he repeated slowly. "When you were 18? "Yes, sir." Commander Jackson looked back at the tattoo. He was focusing on a specific area now, an area that had numbers and letters that looked like military codes. The room was getting very uncomfortable. People did not understand what was happening. They had come to see a demonstration about following rules. Instead, they were watching their commander act very strangely. "These numbers," Commander Jackson said, pointing to part of the tattoo. "What do they mean?" Maria hesitated. She had never talked about what the numbers meant. They were connected to things she had promised never to discuss. Things that were supposed to stay secret. "They are just numbers, sir. They were important to me at the time." But Commander Jackson was shaking his head. He knew those numbers meant something specific, something important, something that changed everything. "Everyone," Commander Jackson suddenly announced to the room. His voice was shaky. "Everyone is dismissed. Go back to your duties now." The soldiers in the audience looked confused. They had been told to come for a demonstration. Now they were being told to leave before it was finished. Commander Jackson walked quickly toward his office. Maria had to hurry to keep up with him. She had never seen him move so fast. His face was still very pale. He looked like a man who had just seen something impossible. When they reached his office, Commander Jackson shut the door hard. He locked it. Maria had never seen him lock his office door before. He went to his desk and sat down heavily in his chair. "Sit down," he said to Maria. His voice was different now, not angry like before, more like he was confused or scared. Maria sat in the same chair she had been in 2 days ago. But everything felt different now. The commander was looking at her in a new way, like he was seeing her for the first time. "Staff Sergeant Rodriguez," Commander Jackson said slowly, "I need you to tell me exactly where you got that tattoo, and I need you to tell me the truth." Maria was still confused about why the commander cared so much about her tattoo, but she could tell this was very important to him. "I got it in a tattoo shop in San Diego, sir, 12 years ago, right after I finished a mission." "A mission?" Commander Jackson leaned forward. "What kind of mission? You said you got this tattoo before you joined the army." Maria realized she had made a mistake. She had said too much. The mission she was thinking about was not something she was supposed to talk about ever. "I meant, I got it after a trip, sir, not a mission." But Commander Jackson was shaking his head. "No, you said mission. What mission were you on 12 years ago when you were 18? Maria felt trapped. She had signed papers promising never to talk about that mission. She had promised to take those secrets to her grave. But somehow Commander Jackson seemed to already know something. "Sir, I cannot talk about that. I signed papers. I made promises." "What kind of papers?" Commander Jackson's voice was getting more intense. "Who did you make promises to?" Maria did not know what to say. She looked down at her hands. She was in trouble no matter what she did. If she talked about the mission, she would be breaking her oath. If she did not talk, the commander would think she was lying about something else. The papers said I could never talk about what happened, that it was classified, that people could get hurt if I ever told anyone. Commander Jackson stood up from his chair. He started walking back and forth behind his desk. Maria could see he was thinking very hard about something. Classified, he repeated. 12 years ago. You were 18. That would make it 2013. Maria did not say anything. She just watched the commander pace back and forth. Staff Sergeant Rodriguez, I'm going to ask you some very specific questions. I need you to answer them honestly. Do you understand? Yes, sir. In 2013, were you part of a military operation? Maria hesitated. Sir, I cannot answer the question. Yes, sir. I was. What branch of the military? I was not regular military then, sir. I was part of a special unit. Commander Jackson stopped pacing. He turned to look directly at Maria. What kind of special unit? Maria felt like she was going to be sick. She was breaking every rule she had ever been taught about keeping secrets. But something told her that Commander Jackson already knew more than he was letting on. A rescue unit, sir. We did missions to help soldiers who were in trouble. Rescue missions. Behind enemy lines, it was not a question. Commander Jackson was stating a fact. Maria's eyes went wide. How did he know that? Sir, what was the name of your unit? Maria's mouth went dry. The name of her unit was one of the biggest secrets she carried. No one was supposed to know it existed, sir. I really cannot tell you that. Task Force Phantom. Maria felt like she had been hit by lightning. Commander Jackson had just said the name of her secret unit. The unit that was supposed to never be mentioned. The unit that officially did not exist. How do you know that name? Maria whispered. Commander Jackson sat back down in his chair. He was looking at Maria like he was seeing a ghost. Because 12 years ago, Task Force Phantom saved my life. The room went completely silent. Maria stared at Commander Jackson. He stared back at her. Neither of them moved for a long moment. That is impossible, Maria finally said. We never saved any commanders. We only saved enlisted soldiers. 12 years ago, I was not a commander. I was Lieutenant Jackson. I was 22 years old, and I was about to die in a place I should never have been. Maria's mind started racing. She thought back to that mission 12 years ago. She remembered the soldiers they had rescued. There had been 5 of them. They had been captured while on patrol. Task Force Phantom had gone in to get them out. The patrol that was captured near the old factory, Maria said slowly. Yes. There were 5 soldiers. Yes. One of them was very young. Maybe 22. He had been shot in the leg. Commander Jackson rolled up his pant leg. There was a long scar on his shin. This leg. Maria felt like the world was spinning. She remembered that young soldier. He had been scared and hurt. She had helped carry him to safety. She had talked to him during the long journey back to base. She had told him he was going to be okay. You had dark hair then, Maria said, and you kept saying you wanted to go home to your mother. She had just had surgery. I was worried about her. Maria could not believe this was happening. The man who had been humiliating her in front of 180 soldiers was the same man she had risked her life to save 12 years ago. But how did you know about my tattoo? Maria asked. Commander Jackson reached into his desk and pulled out a folder. It was marked with stamps that said classified and top secret. After that mission, I spent years trying to find out who saved us. The official reports said we were rescued by regular forces, but I knew that was not true. I knew it was something special. Something secret. He opened the folder and pulled out some papers. It took me 8 years to get clearance to see the real reports. When I did, I learned about Task Force Phantom. I learned about the brave soldiers who risked everything to save us. Maria looked at the papers. She could see photos and documents about the mission, things she had never seen before. The reports had descriptions of all the Task Force Phantom members, Commander Jackson continued, including their identifying marks, including their tattoos. He pulled out a paper and showed it to Maria. It was a description of her. It described her height, her hair color, her age, and it described her tattoo in detail. I have been looking for the members of Task Force Phantom for 4 years. I wanted to thank them. I wanted to make sure they got the recognition they deserved. But most of their identities were classified above my clearance level. Maria read the description of herself. It was very accurate. It even described the specific symbols in her tattoo. The tattoo you have contains the date of our mission. It contains the coordinates of where we were captured. It contains the code name for the operation. Only someone who was there would know those details. Maria looked down at her arm. Her tattoo did contain all those things. She had put them there to remember the mission. To remember the friends she had lost. To remember the soldiers she had saved. The 3 names on your tattoo, Commander Jackson said quietly. Thompson, Martinez, and Chen. They were my team members, Maria said. Her voice was very quiet. They did not make it back from that mission. I know. Their names are in the classified reports too. They died saving us. Maria felt tears starting to form in her eyes. She had not talked about Thompson, Martinez, and Chen for 12 years. They had been like brothers to her. They had died so that 5 soldiers could go home to their families. Why did you put their names on your tattoo? Commander Jackson asked. Because no one else would remember them. Their families were told they died in a training accident. They could never know the truth about how brave their sons were. So I put their names on my body, so at least one person would always remember what they did. Commander Jackson was quiet for a long moment. He looked at the papers in front of him. Then he looked at Maria. Staff Sergeant Rodriguez, do you realize what this means? Sir? You are one of the heroes I have been trying to find for 4 years. You are one of the soldiers who saved my life. And 3 days ago I was about to destroy your career over a uniform violation. Maria did not know what to say. Everything had changed so quickly. A few minutes ago she was being humiliated in front of 180 soldiers. Now she was sitting across from a man whose life she had saved. The person who reported you, Commander Jackson said. Do you have any idea who it might be? Maria thought about it. There are a few soldiers who do not like me, sir. Maybe they are jealous because I got promoted quickly. They do not know what they are talking about. You got promoted quickly because you are an excellent soldier, because you have skills that most people do not have, because you have experience that most people do not have. Commander Jackson closed the folder and put it back in his desk. Staff Sergeant Rodriguez, this investigation is over. As of right now, all charges against you are dropped. You will face no punishment for not reporting your tattoo when you joined the army. Maria felt a huge weight lift off her shoulders. She had thought her career was over. Now she was being told she was not in trouble at all. But sir, I did lie on my application. You lied to protect classified information. Information that you were ordered to never reveal. In my opinion, you did exactly what you were supposed to do. Maria could not believe what she was hearing. Maria closed her eyes and let her mind go back 12 years. She was 18 years old again. Young, scared, but determined to prove herself. She had been picked for Task Force Phantom because she was fast and smart. But mostly because she was willing to do anything to save American soldiers. It was March 15, 2013. Maria remembered the date exactly because it was written on her tattoo. She was at a secret base somewhere she was not allowed to name. The base was small and hidden. Only the most secret operations happened there. Maria had been with Task Force Phantom for 6 months. She was the youngest member of the team. The other soldiers sometimes called her Baby Bird because she was so young. But they respected her. She had already been on 3 successful missions. The team leader was Sergeant Thompson. He was 25 years old and had been doing secret missions for 3 years. He was like a big brother to Maria. He taught her how to stay alive in dangerous places. He taught her how to think fast when things went wrong. Then there was Martinez. He was the team's medic. He was 23 and always made jokes to keep everyone calm. Even when they were in the most dangerous situations, Martinez could make people smile. He carried extra medical supplies for everyone. Chen was the communications expert. He was 24 and could speak 4 languages. He was quiet most of the time, but when he talked, everyone listened. He was the smartest person Maria had ever met. There was also Williams, who was the weapons expert. He was 26 and had been in the army for 8 years. He could use any weapon and hit any target. He taught Maria how to shoot better, and then there was Jackson. Wait, that was not right. On Task Force Phantom, they did not use real names. Everyone had code names. Jackson's code name was Phoenix. Maria's code name was Falcon. Phoenix was new to the team. It was only his 2nd mission with them. He was 22 and had been in the army for 2 years. He was nervous but brave. He always volunteered for the most dangerous jobs. On March 15th, they got an emergency call. A patrol of 5 soldiers had been captured by enemy forces. The patrol had been on a routine mission when they were ambushed. The enemy had taken them to an old factory about 50 miles behind enemy lines. The regular army could not go after them. It would take too long to organize a rescue mission. By the time they got there, the captured soldiers might be dead or moved to another location. That was when Task Force Phantom got called in. They specialized in quick rescue missions in dangerous places. They could get in and out fast without being detected. Maria remembered sitting in the briefing room with her team. The officer giving the briefing looked worried. The factory where the soldiers were being held was in a very dangerous area. There were enemy soldiers everywhere. Getting in would be hard. Getting out with 5 extra people would be almost impossible. This is a high-risk mission, the officer said. We are asking you to go because you are the best. But we understand if anyone wants to step back. Maria looked around the room. Thompson was studying the maps. Martinez was checking his medical supplies. Chen was testing his communication equipment. Williams was cleaning his weapons. Phoenix was listening carefully to every word. No one stepped back. They never did. The plan was simple but dangerous. They would fly in at night using a helicopter that was specially designed to be very quiet. They would land about 5 miles from the factory. Then they would walk the rest of the way. Once they reached the factory, Chen would disable the enemy communications. Williams would take out the guards. Thompson and Maria would find the captured soldiers. Martinez would treat any injuries. Phoenix would watch for enemy reinforcements. After they rescued the soldiers, they would all walk back to the helicopter together. The helicopter would fly them to safety. It sounded simple when they talked about it in the briefing room. But Maria knew that nothing was ever simple once they were in the field. They left at 2 a.m. The helicopter was so quiet that Maria could barely hear it even though she was sitting inside it. The pilot was very skilled. He flew low to avoid enemy radar. He followed valleys and rivers so they would not be seen. The flight took 2 hours. When they reached the landing zone, the helicopter set down for just 30 seconds, long enough for the team to jump out with their equipment. Then it flew away. They would not see it again until the mission was over. The walk to the factory took 3 hours. They had to be very careful. There were enemy patrols in the area. They had to hide several times when they heard vehicles coming. Maria was carrying extra ammunition and medical supplies. The pack was heavy, but she never complained. Everyone on the team carried more than they were supposed to. That was how they stayed alive. When they reached the factory, they waited and watched for an hour. They counted the guards. They figured out the patrol schedule. They looked for the best way to get inside. The factory was big and old. It had been abandoned for years before the enemy started using it. There were holes in the walls and broken windows. But there were also guards with guns at every entrance. Thompson made the final plan. Chen would sneak around to the back and cut the communication lines. Williams would take position on a hill where he could see the whole factory. The rest of them would go in through a hole in the wall on the east side. Everything went according to plan at first. Chen cut the communication lines without being detected. Williams took out 2 guards with his rifle from long distance. Thompson, Maria, Martinez, and Phoenix made it inside the factory. They found the captured soldiers in a room on the 2nd floor. The soldiers were alive but hurt. One had been shot in the leg. That was Phoenix. Another had a broken arm. The others had cuts and bruises. Are you American soldiers? One of the captured men asked when he saw them. Yes, Thompson whispered. We are here to get you out. Can you walk? Most of them could walk, but Phoenix was hurt badly. His leg was bleeding a lot. Martinez worked on him quickly, but they could not stay there long. That was when things went wrong. An enemy patrol came back early from their route. They found the dead guards. They started searching the factory. Suddenly there were enemy soldiers everywhere. We need to go now, Thompson said. Can Phoenix walk? Martinez shook his head. He needs more medical attention, but we can carry him if we have to. They helped Phoenix stand up. He was very pale from losing blood, but he did not complain. The other captured soldiers were ready to move. They made it down to the 1st floor before the shooting started. Enemy soldiers had found them. Bullets were flying everywhere. The team had to fight their way out. Williams was still on the hill picking off enemy soldiers with his rifle. But there were too many of them. More kept coming. We need another exit, Thompson shouted over the noise of gunfire. Chen found a window they could climb through, but it was on the side of the building where there were more enemy soldiers. I will go first and clear the area, Maria said. No, Thompson said. Too dangerous, but Maria was already moving. She climbed through the window and started shooting at the enemy soldiers. She was fast and accurate. She cleared a path for the others. One by one, the captured soldiers climbed through the window. Then Martinez and Phoenix. Then Thompson and Chen. But as they were running toward the trees, more enemy soldiers appeared. There were too many to fight. They were surrounded. That was when Thompson made a decision that Maria would never forget. "Williams, Martinez, get the rescued soldiers to the helicopter," he ordered through his radio. "Chen, Maria, Phoenix, come with me. We are going to give them time to escape." "No," Martinez said through the radio. "We stick together." "That is an order," Thompson said. "Get those soldiers home to their families." Martinez knew better than to argue with Thompson during a mission. He started leading the rescued soldiers toward the helicopter landing zone. Thompson, Chen, Maria, and Phoenix stayed behind to fight the enemy soldiers. They were outnumbered 10-1, but they kept fighting. They kept the enemy busy so the rescued soldiers could escape. The fighting went on for 20 minutes. Maria used up all her ammunition twice. Chen kept calling for backup on the radio, but help was too far away. Then Chen got hit. A bullet caught him in the chest. He fell down and did not get back up. "Chen," Maria shouted. She ran to help him, but it was too late. Chen was gone. Maria felt angry and sad at the same time, but there was no time to grieve. They had to keep fighting. A few minutes later, Martinez got hit too. He had come back to help them instead of going to the helicopter. A grenade exploded near him. Thompson and Maria ran to help, but Martinez was hurt too badly. "Get out of here," Martinez whispered to them. "Get Phoenix home." Then Martinez was gone too. Now it was just Thompson, Maria, and Phoenix. Phoenix could barely walk because of his leg wound. Thompson was running out of ammunition. Maria was scared but determined. "We need to move," Thompson said. "Now." They started running toward the helicopter. Thompson and Maria took turns carrying Phoenix. The enemy soldiers were chasing them, but Williams was still on his hill, slowing them down with his rifle. They were almost to the helicopter when Thompson got hit. A sniper's bullet caught him in the back. He fell forward and did not get up. Maria knelt down next to him. "Thompson, stay with me." Thompson looked up at her. Blood was coming from his mouth. "Get Phoenix home, Falcon." "That is an order. I am not leaving you." Commander Jackson sat back in his chair and looked at Maria with new eyes. The woman sitting across from him was not just any soldier. She was someone who had risked her life to save him and 4 other men. She was a hero who had been hiding in plain sight for 3 years. "Staff Sergeant Rodriguez," he said slowly, "I need to ask you something important. Do you know what happened to Williams?" Maria thought about her old teammate. Williams had been the weapons expert on their team. After the mission, they had all been split up and sent to different bases. They were not allowed to contact each other. I heard he got promoted and transferred to a base in Germany, but that was years ago. I do not know where he is now. "I am going to find him," Commander Jackson said. "Both of you deserve recognition for what you did. And Thompson, Martinez, and Chen deserve to be remembered properly." Maria felt a mix of hope and fear. She had dreamed of this day for 12 years. The day when her friends would be honored for their sacrifice. But she was also worried about breaking the secrecy rules. "Sir, what about the classified nature of the mission? Are we allowed to talk about it now?" Commander Jackson opened his desk drawer and pulled out a thick folder. "I have been working on this for 2 years. I have been requesting declassification of certain parts of the Task Force Phantom records. Last month, I finally got approval." He opened the folder and showed Maria several official documents. They had stamps that said declassified and approved for limited disclosure. The basic facts of the mission can now be discussed within military channels. The names of Task Force Phantom members can be revealed to appropriate military personnel. The heroic actions can be officially recognized. Maria could not believe what she was hearing. For 12 years, she had carried these secrets alone. Now she was being told that she could finally talk about what happened. What does this mean for Thompson, Martinez, and Chen? It means their families can finally learn the truth about how they died. It means their names can be added to official honor rolls. It means they can receive the medals they earned but never got. Maria felt tears starting to form in her eyes. But this time they were tears of happiness. Her friends were going to be remembered as heroes instead of training accident victims. "Sir, there is something else you should know about that mission." "What is that?" "You were not the only one we saved that day. There were 4 other soldiers with you. Do you remember their names?" Commander Jackson thought for a moment. "There was Corporal Williams, not the same Williams who was on your team. Then there was Sergeant Davis, Private Thompson. Again, not the same Thompson from your team. And Private Chang. Do you know what happened to them?" I lost touch with most of them over the years. Davis retired from the Army 5 years ago. Chang transferred to the Air Force. I am not sure about the others. They should know the truth too, Maria said. They should know who really saved them that day. Commander Jackson nodded. You are right. They deserve to know, and they deserve a chance to thank the people who risked everything for them. He picked up his phone and dialed a number. Colonel Martinez, this is Commander Jackson. I need you to come to my office immediately and bring the files on Staff Sergeant Rodriguez. A few minutes later, Colonel Martinez knocked on the door. Commander Jackson told him to come in. Colonel, I need you to sit down. What I'm about to tell you will change everything you think you know about Staff Sergeant Rodriguez. For the next hour, Commander Jackson explained everything to Colonel Martinez. He showed him the classified files. He explained about Task Force Phantom and the rescue mission. He told him about Maria's heroic actions and the sacrifice of her teammates. Colonel Martinez listened in amazement. He looked at Maria with respect and admiration. Staff Sergeant Rodriguez, I owe you an apology. We were about to punish you for something that you should be getting a medal for. Thank you, sir, Maria said, but I do not need an apology. I just want my teammates to be remembered. They will be, Colonel Martinez said. I promise you that. Commander Jackson stood up from his desk. Colonel, I want you to cancel all the charges against Staff Sergeant Rodriguez immediately. I also want you to start the paperwork for her to receive proper recognition for her actions 12 years ago. What kind of recognition? The Bronze Star at minimum, maybe the Silver Star. Her actions that day saved 5 lives and showed extraordinary courage under fire. Maria's eyes went wide. The Bronze Star and Silver Star were very high honors. She had never expected to receive anything like that. Sir, I was just doing my job. No, Commander Jackson said firmly. You went far beyond your job. You risked your life to save strangers. You carried wounded soldiers to safety while under enemy fire. You honored your fallen teammates by never breaking your oath of secrecy. That is not just doing your job. That is heroism. Colonel Martinez started making notes on a pad of paper. What about the families of Thompson, Martinez, and Chen? They need to be notified about the truth. They need to know that their sons died as heroes, not in a training accident, and they need to receive the medals their sons earned. That will not be easy, Colonel Martinez said. Some of those families might be angry that they were lied to for 12 years. They have a right to be angry, Commander Jackson said. But they also have a right to know the truth. And they have a right to be proud of their sons, Maria spoke up. Sir, I would like to be the one to tell them, if that is allowed. Both officers looked at her. Are you sure? Commander Jackson asked. That will be very difficult. They deserve to hear it from someone who was there, someone who knew their sons, someone who can tell them exactly how brave they were. Commander Jackson nodded. If you are willing to do that, I think it would be the right thing. Over the next few hours, they made plans. Commander Jackson would use his contacts to find Williams and the other soldiers who had been rescued that day. Colonel Martinez would start the paperwork for the medals and official recognition. Maria would help contact the families of her fallen teammates. But first, they had to deal with the person who had reported Maria in the first place. We still do not know who made the complaint about your tattoo, Commander Jackson said. That person knew details they should not have known. We need to find out who it was and what they really wanted. Commander Jackson called the military police. He asked them to start an investigation into who had made the complaint. He also asked them to look into whether any classified information had been compromised. Within 2 hours, they had an answer. The military police captain knocked on Commander Jackson's door. Sir, we found out who made the complaint. Who was it? Sergeant First Class David Miller. He works in the records department. Maria knew that name. Miller was a soldier who had asked her out on a date several times. She had always said no. He had not taken rejection well. Why would Miller know about my tattoo? Maria asked. The military police captain looked uncomfortable. He has been watching you, Staff Sergeant Rodriguez. Following you, taking pictures. He saw your tattoo when you were changing clothes in the gym. He photographed it. Maria felt sick. Someone had been spying on her for months, taking pictures of her without permission. There is more, the captain continued. Miller has been trying to access classified files about you. He somehow found references to Task Force Phantom. He did not understand what it meant, but he thought he could use it to get you in trouble. Commander Jackson's face turned red with anger. Where is Miller now? He is in custody, sir. He is being charged with unauthorized surveillance, attempted access to classified materials, and filing a false complaint. Good, Commander Jackson said. Make sure he understands that he could have put national security at risk with his actions. After the military police captain left, Commander Jackson turned to Maria. I am sorry this happened to you. Miller's behavior was completely unacceptable. It is not your fault, sir, but I am glad we know who it was. The important thing is that his actions led to something good. If he had not made that complaint, I never would have seen your tattoo. I never would have realized who you were, Maria smiled. Maybe Thompson, Martinez, and Chen were watching over us. Maybe they wanted the truth to come out. Maybe they did, Commander Jackson agreed. The next day, Commander Jackson called Maria into his office again. This time, Colonel Martinez was there, along with several other high-ranking officers. Staff Sergeant Rodriguez, Commander Jackson said formally, please stand at attention. Maria stood up straight and put her hands by her sides. It is my honor to inform you that your heroic actions on March 15, 2013 have been officially recognized. You are hereby awarded the Silver Star for gallantry in action against an enemy of the United States. One of the other officers stepped forward with a medal box. Inside was the Silver Star, one of the military's highest honors for bravery. Furthermore, Commander Jackson continued, you are being promoted to the rank of Sergeant First Class. Effective immediately. Maria could not believe what was happening. 3 days ago, she had thought her career was over. Now she was receiving one of the highest medals in the military and being promoted. Thank you, sir, she said. Her voice was shaky with emotion. Do not thank me, Commander Jackson said. Thank Thompson, Martinez, and Chen. This medal belongs to all 4 of you. 2 weeks after the medal ceremony, Commander Jackson called Maria into his office again. This time he was not alone. There were several people in suits sitting around his desk. Maria recognized them as officials from military intelligence. Staff Sergeant Rodriguez, please sit down, Commander Jackson said. These gentlemen have some questions for you about your time with Task Force Phantom. Maria sat down carefully. She was nervous about talking to intelligence officials. Even though parts of her mission had been declassified, she was still careful about what she said. Sergeant Rodriguez, one of the officials said, we have been reviewing the files on Task Force Phantom. We want to make sure we have the complete picture of what happened 12 years ago. Yes, sir. I will help however I can. The official opened a thick folder. According to the mission reports, Task Force Phantom was disbanded after the March 15th mission. The unit was considered too high risk to continue. Is that your understanding? Yes, sir. After we lost Thompson, Martinez, and Chen, they decided the unit was too dangerous. The surviving members were transferred to regular units. What happened to the equipment and files from Task Force Phantom? I do not know, sir. After the mission, I was debriefed and then transferred. I never saw any of the equipment or files again. The officials looked at each other. One of them pulled out another document. Sergeant Rodriguez, we have reason to believe that not all Task Force Phantom materials were properly secured after the unit was disbanded. Some equipment may have gone missing. Some files may have been stolen. Maria felt a chill run down her spine. What kind of materials? Communication equipment, weapons, and most importantly, classified documents containing the identities and locations of Task Force Phantom members. Commander Jackson leaned forward. Are you saying that someone has been hunting down Task Force Phantom members? We are not sure yet, the official replied. But we have some concerning information. Sergeant Miller, the man who reported Sergeant Rodriguez, had more classified information than we initially thought. Maria's heart started beating faster. What kind of information? He had photographs of your tattoo, yes. But he also had copies of classified documents. Documents that should not exist outside of secure intelligence facilities. The official showed Maria a photograph. It was a copy of her original Task Force Phantom file. The file that was supposed to be locked away forever. Where did Miller get this? Maria asked. That is what we are trying to find out. Miller claims he got it from someone else. Someone who approached him and asked him to report you for uniform violations. Commander Jackson stood up from his desk. Someone was using Miller to get to Rodriguez? It appears that way. Miller thought he was just getting revenge on someone who rejected him. He did not realize he was part of a larger operation. Maria felt sick. What kind of operation? We think someone has been systematically hunting down Task Force Phantom members. You are not the first one to be targeted. The official pulled out another file. 3 years ago, a soldier named Williams was investigated for unauthorized possession of classified materials. The investigation found nothing, but it caused problems for his career. That is my Williams, Maria said. My teammate from Task Force Phantom. Yes. And 2 years ago, the families of Thompson, Martinez, and Chen all received anonymous letters claiming that their sons had not really died in training accidents. The letters contained enough details to upset the families, but not enough to reveal the truth. Maria was horrified. Someone has been torturing those families with partial information? It appears so. Someone wanted to cause chaos and confusion around Task Force Phantom, without fully exposing the classified mission. Commander Jackson walked to his window and looked out. Who would want to do that? And why? We have a few theories, the official said. It could be foreign intelligence trying to learn about American special operations. It could be someone with a personal grudge against Task Force Phantom members, or it could be someone trying to profit from selling classified information. What do we do now? Maria asked. We need you to help us find this person. You and Williams are the only surviving Task Force Phantom members. You might be able to recognize someone from your past who could be behind this. Over the next several hours, the intelligence officials showed Maria hundreds of photographs. Pictures of enemy soldiers from the 2013 mission. Pictures of military personnel who had access to Task Force Phantom files. Pictures of people who had been asking questions about the unit over the years. Most of the faces meant nothing to Maria, but then she saw one that made her freeze. That man, she said, pointing to a photograph. I have seen him before. Where? At the base where Task Force Phantom was stationed. He was a clerk in the records department. His name was Johnson, I think. Or maybe Jackson. The intelligence officials looked excited. Tell us everything you remember about him. Maria thought back 12 years. He was maybe 30 years old then. He had brown hair and glasses. He was always hanging around the briefing rooms, always trying to listen to conversations that were not meant for him. Did he have access to classified files? I do not think so. But he was always trying to get access. Other soldiers complained about him asking too many questions. One of the officials made notes on his pad. Anything else? There was something strange about him. After the mission, when we were being debriefed, I saw him watching us through a window. It made me uncomfortable. Did you report this to anyone? No. At the time, I was too focused on grieving for my teammates. And then I was transferred so quickly that I forgot about it. The intelligence officials spent the rest of the day checking records. For anyone named Johnson or Jackson who had worked at the Task Force Phantom base in 2013, they found 3 possibilities. We need to check each of these people, the lead official said. We need to see where they are now and what they have been doing for the past 12 years. The investigation took 2 more weeks. During that time, Maria continued her regular duties, but she was always looking over her shoulder. If someone had been hunting Task Force Phantom members for years, she might still be in danger. Finally, Commander Jackson called her back to his office. The intelligence officials were there again. Along with military police, we found him, the lead official announced. His name is Robert Johnson. He worked as a file clerk at your old base from 2012 to 2014. What has he been doing since then? Selling classified information to foreign governments. He has been operating for years, but very carefully. He never sold enough information to attract attention. The official showed Maria a surveillance photograph. It was definitely the man she remembered from 12 years ago. He looked older now, but she recognized his face. He has been targeting Task Force Phantom members as part of a larger scheme. He wanted to expose the unit gradually, causing confusion and forcing officials to declassify more information. Why? Maria asked. Because once information is declassified, it becomes much easier to sell to foreign buyers. He was playing a long game, trying to force the government to reveal secrets so he could profit from them. Commander Jackson shook his head in disgust. He was willing to ruin the lives of American heroes just to make money. Where is he now? Maria asked. In custody. He was arrested this morning. We found extensive evidence of his espionage activities. He will be going to prison for a very long time. Maria felt a huge sense of relief. For weeks, she had been worried that someone was still hunting her. Now she knew that threat was over. What about the information he already sold? She asked. We are working with our allies to track down the buyers and recover what we can. But some information cannot be unsold. That is why this investigation was so important. The intelligence officials packed up their files and prepared to leave. But before they left, the lead official turned to Maria. "Sergeant Rodriguez, I want you to know that your cooperation was essential to this investigation. Because you were willing to talk about your experiences with Task Force Phantom, we were able to identify and stop a serious security threat. I am glad I could help, sir. There is one more thing. The Defense Department has decided to create a new medal specifically for Task Force Phantom members. It will recognize not just your actions during the mission, but also your years of maintaining operational security despite personal cost." Maria was surprised. "A new medal? The Task Force Phantom Service Medal. It will be awarded to you, Williams, and posthumously to Thompson, Martinez, and Chen. It will be a permanent reminder of your unit's sacrifice and dedication." After the officials left, Commander Jackson sat down across from Maria. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Relieved," Maria said. "For 12 years I carried those secrets alone. Sometimes I wondered if I was the only person who remembered what really happened. Now I know that other people care about preserving that history." "Your teammates would be proud of you," Commander Jackson said. "You honored their memory by keeping their secrets safe. And now you are honoring their memory by helping to tell their story properly." Maria nodded. "I think they would want people to know the truth. They died saving American soldiers. That story deserves to be remembered." "It will be. The reunion I mentioned is scheduled for next month. All the rescued soldiers will be there. Williams will fly in from Germany." The day of the public vindication arrived 3 weeks later. Commander Jackson had planned something that Maria never expected. He called another assembly of all the soldiers on the base. The same 180 people who had witnessed her humiliation would now witness her vindication. Maria was nervous as she put on her dress uniform that morning. This time, her uniform included her new Silver Star medal and her promotion stripes. She looked at herself in the mirror and thought about how much had changed since that terrible day in the assembly hall. At 1400 hours, Maria reported to the assembly hall. But this time, everything was different. Instead of being called to the front as a person in trouble, she was escorted to a place of honor on the stage. Commander Jackson stood at the podium and looked out at the assembled soldiers. The room was completely quiet. Everyone remembered what had happened here 3 weeks ago. They were curious about why they had been called back. "Ladies and gentlemen," Commander Jackson began, 3 weeks ago we gathered in this hall for what I called a demonstration about military rules and accountability. Today we are here for a different kind of demonstration. Today we are here to learn about honor, sacrifice, and heroism." Maria sat in her chair on the stage, looking out at the faces in the audience. Some of the soldiers looked confused. Others looked curious. A few seemed to understand that something important was about to happen. 3 weeks ago, I asked Staff Sergeant Rodriguez to remove her uniform jacket to show you her tattoo. I told you that she had violated military regulations by failing to report this tattoo when she joined the Army. I used her as an example of what happens when soldiers break the rules. Commander Jackson paused and looked directly at Maria. "I was wrong. Completely wrong. And today Staff Sergeant Rodriguez deserves an apology from me and from all of us." The audience stirred. Soldiers began whispering to each other. They had never seen a commander apologize to a subordinate in public before. Staff Sergeant Rodriguez did not break military rules. She followed the highest military tradition of all, protecting classified information even at personal cost. Her tattoo was not a violation of regulations. It was a memorial to fallen heroes. Commander Jackson gestured for Maria to stand up. She rose from her chair and stood at attention next to the podium. "Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to meet someone very special. This is Sergeant First Class Maria Rodriguez, recipient of the Silver Star for gallantry in action. She is also a member of one of the most elite and classified military units in American history." The room was completely silent now. Every soldier was paying attention. 12 years ago, Sergeant Rodriguez was part of a unit called Task Force Phantom. This unit specialized in rescue missions behind enemy lines. On March 15, 2013, Task Force Phantom was called to rescue 5 American soldiers who had been captured by enemy forces. Commander Jackson walked over to a large screen that had been set up on the stage. He pressed a button and an image appeared. It was a map showing the location of the rescue mission. The captured soldiers were being held at this location, 50 miles behind enemy lines. The regular army could not reach them in time. Task Force Phantom was the only unit capable of conducting this type of rescue mission. Another image appeared on the screen. It was a photograph of 5 young soldiers in military uniforms. Maria recognized them immediately. They were the soldiers she had helped rescue 12 years ago. These 5 soldiers were facing certain death or worse if they were not rescued quickly. Task Force Phantom accepted the mission, knowing it was extremely dangerous. The unit consisted of 5 members: Sergeant Thompson, the team leader; Specialist Martinez, the medic; Corporal Chen, the communications expert; Specialist Williams, the weapons expert; and 18-year-old Private Rodriguez. Maria felt her heart beating faster as Commander Jackson continued the story. She had never heard anyone tell this story in public before. The mission began at 2 a.m. Task Force Phantom flew to the target area and infiltrated the enemy facility. They successfully located and freed the captured soldiers. But as they were escaping, they were discovered by enemy forces. The next image on the screen was an aerial photograph of the old factory where the mission had taken place. Maria remembered every detail of that building. Task Force Phantom found themselves surrounded by enemy soldiers and outnumbered 10-1. They had to fight their way out while protecting 5 wounded prisoners. During the battle, 3 members of Task Force Phantom made the ultimate sacrifice. 3 new photographs appeared on the screen. They were official military portraits of Thompson, Martinez, and Chen. Maria felt tears starting to form in her eyes as she looked at her fallen friends. Sergeant Thompson, Specialist Martinez, and Corporal Chen gave their lives so that 5 American soldiers could return home to their families. They fought until their last breath, buying time for the others to escape. Commander Jackson turned to look at Maria. Private Rodriguez, the youngest member of the team, carried one of the wounded soldiers to safety while under heavy enemy fire. She and Specialist Williams successfully brought all 5 rescued soldiers home alive. The audience was completely captivated by the story. Some soldiers were leaning forward in their seats. Others had their mouths open in amazement. For 12 years, the members of Task Force Phantom were forbidden from talking about this mission. It was classified at the highest levels. The families of Thompson, Martinez, and Chen were told that their sons had died in a training accident. The rescued soldiers never knew who had saved them. Commander Jackson pointed to Maria's arm. The tattoo that I criticized 3 weeks ago contains the details of this heroic mission. It contains the date, the location, the operation code name, and most importantly, the names of Thompson, Martinez, and Chen. Sergeant Rodriguez got this tattoo to make sure someone would always remember her fallen teammates. The room was so quiet that Maria could hear the air conditioning running. Every person in the audience was staring at her with respect and admiration. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a confession to make. I was one of the 5 soldiers rescued by Task Force Phantom. 12 years ago, I was Lieutenant Jackson. I was 22 years old, and I was dying from a gunshot wound to my leg when Task Force Phantom found me. The audience gasped. Several soldiers turned to look at each other in amazement. Sergeant Rodriguez carried me to safety. She saved my life, and 3 weeks ago I repaid her heroism by humiliating her in front of all of you. I am ashamed of my actions and I owe her a public apology. Commander Jackson turned to face Maria directly. Sergeant Rodriguez, I am deeply sorry for the way I treated you. You are a hero and you deserved better from me and from this command. Maria stood at attention and nodded. Thank you, sir. But an apology is not enough, Commander Jackson continued. Actions have consequences, and my actions 3 weeks ago were wrong. Therefore, I am recommending myself for disciplinary action for conduct unbecoming an officer. The audience stirred again. It was almost unheard of for a commander to recommend himself for punishment. Furthermore, I am pleased to announce that Sergeant Rodriguez has been promoted to Sergeant First Class and awarded the Silver Star for her heroic actions 12 years ago. She has also been selected to receive the new Task Force Phantom Service Medal, which will be awarded to all members of that elite unit. Commander Jackson gestured for Maria to step forward to the podium. Sergeant Rodriguez, would you like to say something to your fellow soldiers? Maria stepped up to the microphone. She looked out at the 180 faces staring back at her. 3 weeks ago, these same people had watched her being humiliated. Now they were looking at her with respect. Thank you, Commander Jackson, and thank you everyone for listening to this story. I want you to know that I did not do anything special 12 years ago. I was just doing my job the same way all of you do your jobs every day. Maria paused and looked down at her tattoo. The real heroes of this story are Thompson, Martinez, and Chen. They made the ultimate sacrifice so that 5 soldiers could go home to their families. For 12 years, I have carried their names on my body because I wanted someone to remember what they did. She looked back up at the audience. I also want you to know that keeping secrets is hard. For 12 years, I could not talk about the most important thing I had ever done. I could not tell anyone about my friends who died as heroes. Sometimes following orders means carrying burdens that other people cannot understand. Maria's voice grew stronger as she continued. But I also want you to know that the truth always comes out eventually. Thompson, Martinez, and Chen are finally being recognized as the heroes they were. Their families finally know the truth about how they died, and the soldiers we saved finally know who rescued them. She pointed to her tattoo again. This tattoo caused me a lot of trouble 3 weeks ago, but it also led to something wonderful. It led to the truth being revealed. It led to my friends being honored. Sometimes the things that seem like problems are actually blessings in disguise. Maria stepped back from the microphone, and Commander Jackson returned to the podium. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to remember this moment. Remember that heroes walk among us every day. Remember that some soldiers carry burdens and secrets that we cannot imagine. The reunion took place on a beautiful Saturday morning at a military conference center in Virginia. Maria had been looking forward to this day for weeks. She arrived early and stood in the parking lot, watching as cars pulled up one by one. The first person she recognized was Williams. He stepped out of a taxi wearing his dress uniform with Master Sergeant stripes. He looked older than Maria remembered, but his smile was exactly the same. When he saw Maria, he ran over and hugged her tightly. "Falcon," he said, using her old code name. "I cannot believe this day is finally here." "Phoenix," Maria replied using William's code name. "It is so good to see you." They held each other for a long moment, both of them thinking about the friends who were not there to share this reunion. "Do you think Thompson, Martinez, and Chen know about today?" Williams asked. "I think they know," Maria said. "I think they have been waiting for this day as much as we have." More cars arrived. Maria saw Commander Jackson get out of his vehicle, followed by the other soldiers who had been rescued 12 years ago. They were all older now, some with gray hair and lines around their eyes. But Maria recognized each of them. Then came the families. Maria's heart started beating faster as she watched Thompson's mother get out of a car. She was a small woman with silver hair and kind eyes. Next came Martinez's parents, an older couple who looked nervous but excited. Finally, Chen's sister arrived with her husband and 2 young children. Maria had been worried about meeting these families. She had carried guilt for 12 years about surviving when their loved ones had not. But as Thompson's mother walked toward her, Maria saw only warmth and gratitude in her eyes. "Are you Maria?" Thompson's mother asked. "Yes, ma'am." "I am so sorry for your loss." My son was a hero," Thompson's mother interrupted. "And so are you. Thank you for keeping his memory alive all these years." She pulled Maria into a hug. Maria felt tears streaming down her face. "I have so many questions," Thompson's mother said. "I want to know everything about his last mission. I want to know what kind of man he was as a soldier." "He was the best leader I ever served under," Maria said. "He cared about every person on his team. He taught me how to be brave when I was scared. He saved all of us that day, even though it cost him his life." Martinez's father approached them. He was a big man with calloused hands and a weathered face. Maria could see where Martinez had gotten his sense of humor. "My son always made people laugh," he said to Maria. "Did he do that on your team too?" "Every day," Maria replied. Even in the most dangerous situations, Martinez could find something to smile about. He kept our spirits up when things looked hopeless. "That sounds like my boy," Martinez's father said with pride. Chen's sister was more reserved, but she had brought photo albums with pictures of Chen as a child and teenager. She showed Maria images of a quiet, studious boy who loved to read and build things. "He was always the smartest person in any room," Chen's sister said, "but he was also the kindest. He would have been happy to know that his sacrifice saved lives." "He was brilliant," Maria told her. "He could figure out any communication system in minutes. Without him, we never could have completed our missions, and he was always looking out for the younger members of the team." The reunion officially began in a large conference room. Commander Jackson had arranged for a military chaplain to conduct a memorial service for Thompson, Martinez, and Chen. Their families had brought photographs and personal items to display on a memorial table. During the service, each person shared memories and stories. The rescued soldiers talked about how grateful they were to be alive. Williams and Maria shared stories about their fallen teammates. The families talked about the men their sons had been before joining the army. But the most moving moment came when Commander Jackson stood up to speak. 12 years ago, I was a young lieutenant who thought he knew everything about being a soldier, he began. I was captured because I made foolish decisions. I was dying because I was not prepared for the realities of combat. He looked at Maria and Williams. Task Force Phantom saved my life, but they also taught me what real soldiering looks like. They showed me what it means to put the mission and your teammates above your own safety. Commander Jackson's voice broke slightly as he continued. Thompson, Martinez, and Chen died so that I could go home to my mother, so that Davis could go home to his wife, so that the other soldiers could go home to their families. That is a debt I can never repay. He turned to the families. Your sons were not just good soldiers. They were exceptional human beings. They chose to sacrifice themselves so that strangers could live. That is the highest form of love and service. After the memorial service, they moved to another room, where military officials were waiting with medals and citations. This was the moment Maria had dreamed of for 12 years. The first medals presented were posthumous awards for Thompson, Martinez, and Chen. Each family received their son's Silver Star, along with the new Task Force Phantom Service Medal. The families also received folded American flags and certificates of appreciation. Thompson's mother clutched her son's medals to her chest and cried. He always wanted to make a difference, she said. Now I know that he did. Martinez's parents stood together as they received their son's awards. We always knew he was special, his father said. Now the whole world knows. Chen's sister accepted her brother's medals with quiet dignity. He would have been embarrassed by all this attention, she said, but he would have been proud to be honored alongside his teammates. Then it was time for the living members of Task Force Phantom to receive their recognition. Williams was called forward first. He received the Task Force Phantom Service Medal and a promotion to Senior Master Sergeant. Master Sergeant Williams, the presenting officer said, your courage and skill under fire saved the lives of 5 American soldiers. Your dedication to your teammates and your mission exemplifies the highest traditions of military service. Finally, it was Maria's turn. She walked to the front of the room, thinking about the journey that had brought her to this moment. From an 18-year-old girl trying to prove herself, to a soldier carrying terrible secrets, to a woman finally receiving the recognition she had never sought. Sergeant First Class Rodriguez, the officer announced, you are hereby awarded the Task Force Phantom Service Medal. In addition to your previously awarded Silver Star, your actions on March 15, 2013, and your faithful keeping of classified information for 12 years represent the finest traditions of American military service. As Maria received her medal, the entire room stood and applauded. She looked out at the faces surrounding her, the families of her fallen friends, the soldiers she had helped save, her surviving teammate, and the commander whose life she had saved. After the ceremony, there was a reception where everyone could talk informally. Maria found herself surrounded by people who wanted to hear more stories about Thompson, Martinez, and Chen. What was Thompson's favorite food? His mother asked. Chocolate chip cookies, Maria replied. He always had a package from home in his gear. He shared them with everyone on the team. Did Martinez ever talk about his girlfriend back home? His father wanted to know. All the time, Maria said with a smile. He carried her picture everywhere. He was planning to propose to her when he got back from deployment. What did Chen like to do in his free time? His sister asked. He read books about science and technology. He was always trying to improve our equipment. He said he wanted to invent things that would keep soldiers safer. As the day went on, Maria realized that this reunion was healing wounds she had not even known she carried. For 12 years she had grieved alone. Now she was surrounded by people who understood her loss and shared her pride in her teammates. Williams approached her during a quiet moment. Do you think we did the right thing?
Keeping the secret for so long?
Yes, Maria said without hesitation. We did what we were ordered to do. We protected classified information, and we honored our friends by keeping their sacrifice secret until it was safe to reveal it. But their families suffered for 12 years, thinking their sons died in an accident. Their families are proud now, Maria pointed out. Look at them. They know their sons were heroes. They know their sons died for something important. That knowledge might have been dangerous 12 years ago, but it is healing now. Commander Jackson joined their conversation. I want to tell you both something. This reunion, these medals, this recognition, it is just the beginning. What do you mean? Williams asked. The Pentagon has approved the creation of a Task Force Phantom Memorial at Arlington National Cemetery. Thompson, Martinez, and Chen will be remembered there forever, and there will be a scholarship program in their names for military families. Maria felt a surge of emotion. Her friends would not just be remembered by the people in this room. They would be remembered by future generations of Americans. There is something else, Commander Jackson continued. The Army is creating a new Special Operations Unit based on the Task Force Phantom model. They want both of you to help train the new operators. You want us to pass on what we learned? Maria asked. Yes. Your experience, your skills, your understanding of what it takes to succeed in these missions. It is too valuable to lose.